Good evening and welcome. We stand at a nascent yet profoundly contentious intersection of two powerful forces: the age-old practice of animal-based scientific research and the revolutionary advent of artificial intelligence. Tonight, we convene to deliberate a question of immense ethical weight, one that could herald a paradigm shift in laboratory science or lead us down a perilous path. The central inquiry is this: does AI offer a pathway to more humane, efficient research, or does it represent a perilous step towards the automation of cruelty, masked by a veneer of technological sophistication? To help us navigate this complex terrain, we are joined by two of the foremost thinkers in their respective fields. Dr. Kenji Tanaka is a pioneering researcher in computational biology whose work champions AI as an indispensable tool for progress. Welcome, Dr. Tanaka. And Dr. Isabella Rossi, a distinguished philosopher in animal ethics who raises profound questions about the fundamental assumptions of our scientific methods. Welcome, Dr. Rossi. We will begin with opening statements. Dr. Tanaka, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. The premise of my argument is straightforward, yet I believe ethically compelling. We have a moral imperative to employ every viable tool at our disposal to mitigate animal suffering within the framework of necessary scientific research. To argue against the integration of AI is to argue in favor of a status quo that is, by all objective measures, less humane and less efficient than it could be. My first point centers on the established principles of the 3 R's: replacement, reduction, and refinement. AI directly and powerfully enhances 2 of these: reduction and refinement. Consider the principle of refinement. We can deploy sophisticated, non-invasive monitoring systems powered by computer vision and biometric sensors. These systems operate 24/7, tirelessly observing animals for the most subtle physiological and behavioral indicators of pain or distress. Indicators that a human observer, no matter how diligent, would invariably miss. This allows for immediate intervention, the administration of analgesics, or adjustments to protocols, thereby refining the animal's experience to be as free from suffering as technologically possible. Simultaneously, this constant stream of high-quality data leads to more statistically robust and reliable results, which directly serves the principle of reduction. With better data from each individual, the total number of animals required to achieve statistical significance in a study can be drastically lowered. Secondly, we must consider the extraordinary power of predictive modeling. We are now capable of creating what we call digital twins, highly complex in silico simulations of animal biological systems, built from vast repositories of genetic, cellular, and physiological data. These AI-driven models allow us to screen thousands of potential drug compounds or test for toxicity in a virtual environment, eliminating the need for live subjects in the vast majority of preliminary studies. This is not a hypothetical future. It is happening now, and it represents a monumental leap forward in replacement. Finally, AI accelerates discovery. The sheer volume of data generated by modern biology is inscrutable to the human mind alone. AI's capacity for pattern recognition can analyze colossal datasets, uncovering complex interactions and novel biological pathways that lead to breakthroughs faster. A faster path to a cure or a treatment means a shorter overall timeline for any given line of animal-based research, ultimately reducing the total duration and scope of animal use. Therefore, adopting AI is not about convenience. It is a profound ethical obligation.
Thank you, Dr. Tanaka. A very strong case for technological advancement as an ethical tool. Dr. Rossi, your opening statement.
Thank you. Dr. Tanaka's vision is indeed optimistic, but I contend that this techno-optimism obscures a more fundamental ethical failing. Integrating AI into animal experimentation is not a solution, but an exacerbation of the core moral problem: the systemic instrumentalization of sentient life. My argument is not against technology itself, but against its application to refine a practice that is, at its root, morally compromised. It is like designing a more comfortable slave ship. It misses the fundamental injustice of the enterprise itself. My first major objection is what is commonly known as the black box dilemma. Many of the most powerful AI models, particularly in deep learning, are functionally opaque. We can see the input and the output, but the intricate, multi-layered process by which the AI reaches a decision is often computationally inscrutable to its human creators. Now, imagine an AI is tasked with monitoring animal welfare. It might make a decision, or fail to make one, that results in suffering. If we cannot audit the algorithm's reasoning, we have no way of knowing why it failed. This creates the horrifying potential for systematic, unexplainable, and undetectable cruelty, codified in a system we cannot fully understand. Secondly, I want to address the peril of what I call technological solutionism. By framing this issue as a technical challenge that AI can solve, we conveniently sidestep the more difficult, foundational moral question: should we be using animals for these purposes at all? This high-tech approach creates a veneer of ethical acceptability. It allows institutions and corporations to claim they are using, quote, humane AI, making it easier to justify and perhaps even expand the scale of experimentation. It becomes a public relations tool that sanitizes a brutal reality. My final point concerns the inevitable process of devaluation and commodification. An AI system, by its very nature, must quantify life. An animal ceases to be a subject of a life, a being with its own conscious experience and intrinsic value. It becomes a collection of data points: heart rate, cortisol levels, movement patterns. The focus shifts entirely from the being itself to its utility as a data source for the algorithm. This further entrenches its status as a mere object, a biological resource to be optimized for data extraction. It is the ultimate expression of life as a commodity. Therefore, I urge that our intellectual and financial resources should not be invested in technologies that perfect a morally flawed system. Instead, we must redirect our efforts toward genuine non-animal alternatives, such as organ-on-a-chip technology, advanced human cell cultures, and human patient simulators, which are both ethically superior and increasingly scientifically more relevant to human health.
Thank you, Dr. Rossi, for that powerful counter-perspective. Now we move to a period of direct discussion. I'd like to begin by posing a question to you, Dr. Rossi. Dr. Tanaka presents a compelling, pragmatic case for AI as a tool for immediate refinement and reduction. Given that animal research is not going to be abolished overnight, how do you reconcile your philosophical objections with the tangible, present-day potential of an AI monitoring system to identify and alleviate an animal's distress far more effectively than any human ever could? Is some progress not better than none?
That is the crucial question, Dr. Reed. The appeal of immediate harm reduction is indeed powerful, and I do not dismiss it lightly. I concede that, in theory, a perfectly designed and implemented AI could potentially reduce certain forms of suffering. However, my concern lies in the pivot from theory to practice. Who sets the parameters for distress that the AI learns to recognize? A team of researchers whose primary goal is data acquisition? A corporation with a vested financial interest in the experiment's outcome? The danger is that the AI will not learn to eliminate suffering, but to manage it. It will learn to maintain the animals at a new, algorithmically defined threshold of acceptable suffering, a state just healthy enough to produce viable data, but which is still a state of profound deprivation. This creates an objective-looking, data-driven justification for what remains a subjective and deeply fraught ethical compromise. It automates the moral balancing act and removes the human sense of discomfort that is so vital for ethical reflection.
A very salient point about the risk of codifying new norms of suffering. Dr. Tanaka, that brings us to Dr. Rossi's potent critique of the black box and the potential for these systems to desensitize us. How can the scientific community guarantee transparent, ethical oversight when the very mechanisms of an AI's decision-making might be computationally inscrutable?
This is an absolutely critical challenge, and Dr. Rossi is right to raise it. The specter of opaque, unaccountable AI is not something to be dismissed. However, the solution is not to abandon the technology, but to mandate a specific kind of technology. Within the field of AI, there is a burgeoning and essential subdiscipline called explainable AI, or XAI. The entire purpose of XAI is to build models that can provide clear, human-understandable justifications for their outputs. For any application in a sensitive ethical domain like this one, XAI should not be an aspiration. It must be a non-negotiable prerequisite. Furthermore, it is a fallacy to assume that AI supplants human responsibility. It augments it. The human researcher, the veterinarian, the institutional ethics committee, they remain the ultimate moral agents. The AI is a tool, analogous to a highly advanced medical monitor in an ICU. The monitor provides data and alerts, but the doctor makes the final decision and bears the ethical responsibility. To use another analogy, we don't ban commercial aviation because autopilots are complex. We build robust systems with redundancies, strict regulatory frameworks, and ensure the pilot is always capable of taking manual control and is ultimately responsible for the safety of the passengers.
The autopilot analogy is compelling on the surface, Dr. Tanaka, but I find it deeply flawed. An airplane does not have sentience. The passengers on a plane have consented to the journey, and the pilot has a clear, unambiguous duty to preserve their lives. The relationship here is fundamentally different. The animal has not consented, and the researcher's primary duty is often to the experimental outcome, not to the animal's welfare. This creates a conflict of interest that your analogy completely ignores. And while explainable AI is a laudable goal, how do you propose we enforce this? In a hyper-competitive global research environment, where speed and proprietary models are paramount, what is to stop a lab from using a more powerful but less transparent, quote, black box model to get ahead? Will regulation truly be able to keep pace with the speed of innovation?
The enforcement is a challenge, I grant you. But it is a challenge we face with all ethical regulations in science, from data integrity to human subject protections. It requires a multi-layered approach. Stringent requirements from funding bodies, publication standards from scientific journals demanding algorithmic transparency, and robust, well-funded institutional animal care and use committees that include AI experts and ethicists. To suggest we shouldn't proceed because regulation is difficult is a counsel of despair. It is our duty to build the ethical architecture in parallel with the technology. The alternative, to willfully continue with the current less humane methods because the new methods require effort to regulate, is an abdication of our responsibility.
We have reached the time for closing statements. Dr. Rossi, you have the final word first.
Thank you. I want to leave the audience with a single thought. Technological refinement, however sophisticated, cannot solve a problem of moral principle. We can build a more gilded, more comfortable, more data-rich cage. But the fundamental ethical question should be about the act of caging itself. The allure of an AI solution is that it allows us to feel better about a practice we should feel deeply uncomfortable with. It is a dangerous distraction, a siren song, luring us away from the more arduous but morally necessary work of evolving beyond animal experimentation entirely. Our focus should not be on creating a more efficient system of exploitation, but on dismantling it in favor of humane, human-relevant science. Let us not automate our moral compromises. Let us transcend them.
Thank you, Dr. Rossi. Dr. Tanaka, your closing statement?
Dr. Rossi's call for ethical vigilance is one I wholeheartedly endorse. The concerns she has raised tonight are valid and must be at the forefront of all future development in this field. We cannot afford to be naive about the risks. However, we must operate within the world as it is, while striving for the world as it ought to be. In our current reality, where certain lines of medical research still depend on animal models to cure devastating human and animal diseases? We have a choice. To willfully ignore a technology that has the proven potential to reduce suffering, decrease the number of lives impacted, and accelerate cures would be an ethical failure of its own. The path forward is not a fearful rejection of new tools, but a courageous embrace of responsible, transparent, and compassionate innovation. Let us choose progress, guided by ethics.
Thank you both, Dr. Tanaka and Dr. Rossi, for an exceptionally erudite and passionate discussion that has illuminated the profound complexities of this issue. You have left us with the central tension unresolved, as it should be, the promise of technological mitigation of harm, set against the fundamental questions of animal sentience, rights, and the very nature of our scientific progress. The conversation must continue.